Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So, welcome everyone to the sixth session of this program. We have up until now covered oh, yeah, we've basically covered a good portion from the beginning until uh, we've completed the little bit of the story of Adam alayhi salam. And before we get into the next part, which will speak about the Bani Israil for a long while, I thought maybe it's a good opportunity for us to refresh ourselves in terms of some of what we should know and what we need to know, in terms of who are the prophets and messengers. Um, and before we get onto that, how does that relate to this? Well, like I mentioned, we start with this topic on Bani Israil. So from here on, for a while, in Surah Al-Baqarah, these will be ayats in relation to Bani Israil, pertaining to many of the stories and events that have happened. Um, and the Bani Israel are the children of Israel. And who is Israel? Israel is the other name of the prophet Yaqub. And who is Prophet Yaqub? He is the son of the prophet Ishaq. And who is Prophet Ishaq? He is the son of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. From here, I want to highlight that, or just, I guess, remind ourselves that Prophet Ibrahim is known as the father of the prophets because every prophet that came after his time, after him, were from his descendants. Every prophet that came after him was from his descendants. And from amongst his two sons, Ismail and Ishaq, both of whom were prophets, Ismail only had one offspring that was a prophet, and Ishaq had all of the prophets of Bani Israel, which include Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Dawood alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam, and there were many, Yusuf alayhi salam, and there were many. But the one prophet that came from the line of Ismail was the best of them all, the master, none other than Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so this is a little bit in relation to how is it that the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, in what ways he related to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and in what ways he related to Bani Israil. Right? The Bani Israil, again, they're the children of Israel, who is Yaqub. So they're all from the children of Yaqub. And Yaqub is a prophet who is the son of Prophet Ishaq, who was the son of Prophet Ibrahim. And Prophet Ibrahim is one. Okay, طيب. So the other thing that I want to mention is from the prophets and messengers, you have those who were distinguished, those who are from the top five, known as the ulul azm. Right? And this term ulul azm comes in the Quran, فَاصْبِرْ كَمَا صَبَرَ أُولُو الْعَزْمِ مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. And these five are mentioned together in two places in the Quran, one being in Surah Al-Ahzab, where Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ مِيثَاقَهُمْ وَمِنْكَ وَمِن نُوحٍ وَمِنْكَ, referring to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمِن نُوحٍ وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى وَعِيسَى ibn Maryam. And the other comes in Surah Ash-Shura, right after now Allah Azza wa Jalla says شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك. Here you have the mention of Nuh alayhi salam, and إليك referring to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وما وصينا به إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى أن أقيموا الدين ولا تتفرقوا فيه. And يعني there's in these ayat alone, يعني we could have يعني a lot to say, but the point is, I was just trying to highlight the five prophets and messengers known as, or the five messengers known as the Ulul Azm. And as we can see, Nuh was the first one, and he's the father of man, the second father of mankind. And after him is who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so you see,
Rahman, I'm sorry
now,
to interrupt, but can I ask you to turn on your video if you don't mind?
I could, sure.
I turned on mine as well, just so that you know, it's more engaging, inshallah.
Okay, I do not have the ability to. It says you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
All right, here goes. Sorry about that.
No problem. How's this?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so now, so in terms of the prophets, so we said Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was the second one in order of yani who came first. And we see that the other three from the top five Ulul Azm came after him. And so, as we mentioned earlier, all the prophets came after him, which means that they were from his descendants. So this is a little bit about what is important to know in our stories of the prophets, yani, sessions. طيب. So I think we can move on to more in terms of what Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions. So I won't really be going over everything because there's a lot of stories that are highlighted specifically from Bani Israil. And Bani Israil, again, like I mentioned, from amongst them are those who were with Musa alayhi salam, and from amongst them were those who were with Isa alayhi salam and other prophets. And the prophet that's mentioned the most in the Quran is Musa alayhi salam. And the book that's mentioned the most in the Quran, and this is a benefit that I took from a lesson not too long ago, is the book that's mentioned most in the Quran is actually the book of Musa alayhi salam. And so we see that the Bani Israil are the ones who are the most mentioned, because there is a lot of lessons for us as Muslims to take from, and not just us as Muslims, but for mankind, all of mankind to take from, right? Allah Azza wa Jal does not tell us stories for the sake of stories. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us stories for us to derive lessons from, so that we can better ourselves and we can prepare ourselves in this life and for the hereafter, most importantly. And what I want to highlight from what we would see if we read these ayats is Allah Azza wa Jal beginning with Ya Bani Israil, Ya Bani Israil, اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this twice in this part. And then he brings it up later again. That, O Bani Israel, remember the favors that I've bestowed upon you. And this is something that Allah Azza wa Jal, if you read, you will notice after he mentions, don't do this, don't do this, yani in terms of rectifying, shortcomings and basically providing guidance. Allah Azza wa Jal reminds them, واتقوا يوما لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا ولا يقبل منها شفاعة ولا يؤخذ منها عدل ولا هم ينصرون نجيناكم وإذ نجيناكم. Remember when we saved you, referring to the story of Fir'aun. Uh, وإذ آتينا موسى الكتاب, and remember when, right? وإذ قال موسى لقومه, and remember. وإذ قلتم يا موسى, and remember. Allah Azza wa Jalla is reminding them of these favors that He bestowed upon them. Every time that He forgave them, every time that, yani, every time they wronged Him, and Allah Azza wa Jalla, uh, you know, would punish the wrongdoers but save those who were, yani, not from the wrongdoers. And this, yani, Allah Azza wa Jalla is reminding them, remember the favors, remember this, remember. And so from our point of view, yani, this also reminds us of Allah Azza wa Jalla telling us in the Quran, Surah Ibrahim, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَظَلُومٌ كَفَّارٌ. That if you were to count the blessings that He has given us, we will not be able to enumerate them. And it's just that mankind, we are people who wrong ourselves, and we just, yani, ungrateful. We're ungrateful. And let's really ponder on this. Because this is what Allah Azza wa Jalla, our Creator, is telling us about the reality of our situation. The reality is, no matter what situation you're experiencing now, there is a lot of blessings and bounties and favors that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you. And how much of gratitude have you shown? How much gratitude have we shown to Allah Azza wa Jalla for the blessings that He has given us? And I had shared this before at one point, and it might have been in the question and answer session, so I don't know if it was captured. I don't know if it was recorded, but yani, as some of the scholars and students of knowledge have mentioned, just to put things into perspective, that if we were offered, yani, a large sum of money for free, say, let's put a value to it. Let's say $10 million. Just, yani, 10 million straight cash, untaxable, right? You get to keep all the money on the basis that you give them one eye or a lung or a kidney. Would any of you go for that? Right? Would anyone take $10 million and give them their organs? And what if it was just one organ, one eye? Right? And if you think about it, yani, that $10 million, if this condition was not met, you would feel like, wow, I've been given everything that I need. With that money, I'm going to go buy my favorite house. I'm going to, get my favorite car. I'm going to, could I have a list, right? Um, but you would not replace that for any of the parts uh, of of your body. And this is what Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us for free. How grateful are we to the one who has provided us with health? How grateful are we for the one who has provided us with wealth? How grateful are we for the one who has provided us even just the mere life that we're living, right? And when we speak about gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jalla, showing gratitude, it's a must that we realize, yani, when we show gratitude, it must be done in a way that Allah Azza wa Jal likes, because that's only when it's only then when you consider it yani gratitude. So yani from our points, yani for ourselves, I should say, when we read these ayats, and I guess let me mention this, in this program, as we're going through several, ayat, we're really just touching on these ayats. So it's important that we actually study these ayats that we're reading, because it's not, these sessions are not really meant as a like a study session, right? For the ayats, there's so much lessons and values that can be derived from these ayat that we read. And these sessions we have, the 1 week sessions, are not once a week sessions are not yani intended for uh doing so, because we won't finish. We'll never finish, right? Our grandkids will have to take over us, take over for us. Yani. Uh, so it's just a reminder that as we're reading these and kind of looking at some big picture takeaway points, to refer back to the works of the scholars in terms of their explanation of these ayats, because there's so much that's there that we haven't even touched, you know so
You know
yeah.
that
Mhm.
if I may interject, it reminds me of the saying "الدال على الخير كفاعله," which is the person who points to where the good is like as if he does it. So um, basically, to build on what you're saying, these lessons are pointing to what's all there is to learn, and as you do it, inshallah, the reward will be spread by the mercy of Allah among all of us, and we can encourage each other to stay on the truth and to be patient on it.
Jazakumullah khairan for that. um yeah, I had a point that I forgot. Well, musta'an. But I guess we'll just quickly summarize and wrap up the main point that I kind of wanted to touch on for today. And we're not really going to go over like each of these stories. We, inshallah, next week we'll touch on some of the specific stories, uh because there's a lot of lessons really for some of them. I feel like we shouldn't miss. But again, just as we're reading these ayats, especially as we begin this ayah, ya Bani Israil, udhkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. Remember the favors that I've bestowed upon you. Because the Bani Israil, they have a history even from before yani the Muslims of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we say Muslims, specifically, it's in reference to the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But generally speaking, all the prophets were Muslims. All of the prophets, including Isa and his followers, the true followers, they were Muslims. They were Muslimun because they submitted to the one Creator, Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why we have Nuh alayhi salam saying, as mentioned in the Quran, وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. وَأَنَا وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. If I'm remembering the correct ayah, but there is an explicit reference to him saying that he is from the Muslims, right? And that's Nuh alayhi salam, the first of the messengers, all the way. And we have obviously the Prophet alayhi salam saying, وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. But the point was that as we are reading these ayats, even though they are stories of those people who came before us, there are valuable lessons that are intended for us. لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب, as Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the ending of Surah Yusuf. ما كان حديثا يفترى ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions that stories in these stories that are mentioned لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب, that there is a عبرة for the people of understanding. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions that they are hudan wa rahmah, guidance and mercy. And so these stories are here for us to understand the mistakes of those who came before us so we ourselves don't fall into them, and to benefit from the message that's being delivered. And one of the main ones, or I shouldn't say, the one that I guess I've chosen to sort of focus and highlight on is the idea of remembering the favors that were bestowed. There is a lot of favors that Allah Azza wa Jal has bestowed upon us as Muslims and us as creation, as humans. But we are very ungrateful, and it is only we need to work on ourselves and be from those who are grateful, right? وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ, as Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. So I hope today's session is in addition to providing a little bit of an overview in terms of what we need to know about our, just generally and very basically, about the prophets and messengers and who the best are amongst them, and in terms of their relationship with each other. I hope that we can take from today to contemplate and really think about the bounties that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. And I hope that this serves as a reason for us to be closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, and to seek forgiveness for our shortcomings, and for asking him and begging Allah Azza wa Jal to make us steadfast upon his deen, and to make us from those who are grateful. And with that, I think will suffice.
Jazakumullah khair.
وإياكم.
So in the chat, I'm going to be sharing the Quran recitation by Sheikh Abdullah al-Matrud. And the last ayah he was reading before I stopped it was يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا. And I mean that's the part of the ayah, but it's a beautiful message that Allah will inshallah make a good translation, but Allah will make firm those who believe with the good word in this life and the hereafter. And so the firmest word there is the book of Allah, the word of Allah. And other people who came before us, they say that they have the word of Allah too. But I've seen a Christian Ahmara person who converted to Islam, and after converting, he said, Wallahi, I did not believe that there is a word of Allah like the Quran. Because if you look at what they in their world consider the word of Allah, it is basically things that historians would write, compared to what we have, which is what Allah said as conveyed by the angel directly to the Prophet. and on top of that, it is preserved. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So in this series of connecting with the Quran, I thank you, Brother Abdul Rahman, for helping us to understand more of the meaning in English, where inshallah it will be in addition to what we and our children have been learning of the Quran in the Arabic. At the same time, we should also note that there is also an emotional level of connecting with the Quran. So if you read about how those before us interacted with the Quran on the emotional level, that is yet another window that we should be asking Allah to do for us. The Prophet had one of his Sahaba read to him portion of the Quran, and when he got to the section that said, "And we made you a witness on these people," the Prophet ﷺ, he cried. Also, you'll see from his companions, Abu Bakr cried when he read a surah, which many people did not understand what it meant, but Abu Bakr understood what it meant. The surah is فسبح بحمد say it. It's slipping my mind right now. فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. Very short surah, but that it indicated to Abu Bakr something that many people missed, which is Allah is winding down the message to the Prophet ﷺ by telling him, in contrast to the early days, by telling him, ask Allah, just praise Allah and ask for forgiveness. He is forgiving. Just when he saw that, and Allahu A'lam, the truth, if there might be deeper things that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu saw, but he started crying and saying that this is a sign that Allah is winding down the message to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at the same time, I guess this could go long, but Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was reading ayah that says, يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ. And then he was crying and saying, how will I be on that day when people are going to be scattered about like scattered moths? And so we ask Allah to connect us with the Quran, both in meaning and emotionally. So yeah, the conclusion ran a little long, but anybody have a question, feel free to ask Sheikh Abdul Rahman here. Okay, I'll stop the recording.